Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our Digital Web Innovation Clinic. This month, we're going to be talking about multi-channel marketing and the evolving customer experience. Let's wait one more minute for other people to join, please. All right, I'll go ahead and do introductions while we're waiting for the rest of the group to join the call. Hi, everyone. My name is Rick Rude. I will be moderating today's discussion. With me, I have Janae Khan, Executive Vice President for Marketing Solutions and Operations here at Encima. Jay, as he likes to be called, has worked in multiple industry verticals, including healthcare, retail, and financial services. Over the past 15 years, Jay has worked with a variety of corporations, including Hearst Corp, Pep Boys, Shell US, and Fair Isaac. Jay's focus has always been on customer relationships and refining the customer journey within these organizations. We are very excited to have Jay with us here today and glean his insight into the ever-evolving customer experience process. Once again, thank you to everyone who has taken time out of their busy schedules to join today's discussion, where Jay is going to talk about evolving the customer experience. We're going to get started shortly. During the course of the web clinic today, please feel free to submit your questions via the chat window. We have made the chat window private so that you can feel comfortable asking any questions that you may have. We're going to try to get to all of the questions at the end of the web clinic, but just in case we run out of time, we can send you a follow-up response via email with more information. Your questions are extremely valuable to us. And with that, I will now pass it on to Jay.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Rick. So thanks for joining. Today we're going to be talking about customer experience, and everybody that we know in marketing and or digital and CRM and database marketing has heard of the term customer experience. It's all over the place. When we look at LinkedIn, we look at articles, blogs, posts, there's a lot of talk going on about customer experience. So, which is a good thing. It is a very broad term, however. So we're not going to boil the ocean today on customer experience. We're going to try to talk about just a few things. So let's very quickly just talk about the agenda. We're going to talk about the customer experience itself, journeys that make up that customer experience, and we'll talk about more how does multi-channel our world fits into it, and what can we do as marketers very quickly, some things that we can do in a short turnaround. Before we get into deep, let's level set. There are many examples and definitions of customer experience, and as I said earlier, it's a very broad term. Everybody's trying to describe it in their own way, so you'll read a lot. Here we're talking about customer experience as the cumulative impact of multiple touch points over time which result in a real relationship feeling or lack of it, right? So for this conversation, let's keep this in mind. This is the definition for it. So when we start to move along, when you see, or when I see, and other people see these logos, I think there's a feeling or a reaction, if I may, that comes to people. Some are positive.
I'm warm and fuzzy about some of these logos, and some of them make me cringe a little bit, actually.
I bet the ones on the right make you really feel really good, right?
There's one in particular over there that I'm like, oh, not them again.
Yeah. So again, when we see these, I think the main thing that some reactions that we all feel are, some are positive, some are negative, but at the end of the day, some companies that are reflected on the left-hand side for a reason here, you can see that some of these companies really have something going on that people get attracted to. These are the usual suspects on the good side of custom reputation listing, and high on customer service and high on customer satisfaction and those type of things. The companies on the right are having challenges. So some of these companies have certain thing about them. The way that they grew out, either through acquisition or through some other means, that they just haven't been able to kind of garner that customer reputation and satisfaction among their constituents. So they're having a tough time. But that doesn't mean that you can't turn this thing around, right? So there are things that you can do that will turn these things around. So what is it that what is the big deal about the customer experience? So going into the next slide. So what is it about customer experience that people are talking about it, and it's such a big deal? The key is the relevancy and the timeliness and the accessibility of information. When we look at this one slide, it's really about what it talks about is customer who's empowered, right? So we always thought from an inside of the company that we will offer up a product, customer is going to love it, they're going to buy it, and they're going to just continue to use it. They're going to tell their friends, and everything will be fine. But I think we're realizing that things are turned around. We as marketers really have to kind of respond to that. And how do we live and put ourselves in customers' position? And not for the product that we are selling, but really think about other products and other services. Because if we try to put ourselves, our employees and ourselves into our customer shoes, data shows, research shows, those are not the good scenarios because people are still kind of defensive about their groups and their teams and their direct marketers that they are thinking about. They're protecting their direct marketing universe, and if they are in the pricing, they say, okay, this price everybody will like it, and I know I'm going to pay for it. So those are the type of things that we don't want to do. But still, how do we ensure that it's not our choice, it's our customer's choice? It's not something that we control. It is something that our customers control. From that standpoint, how do we make the information that we have available to the customers who need it? So we have to be a step ahead. This is where the data comes in, understanding who the customers are, what are they looking for, and be able to deliver it. These are the tips and the answers and the directions, whatever they're looking for on your website, whatever they're looking for in your stores, whatever they're looking for in your app to be relevant. The other thing is it's being timely. This is a time where patience is not a thing of value anymore from a customer standpoint. They are looking for instant gratification. They want the answer today. They want the answer this second. So I use this as an example that if you're a college student or you have a customer who's a college student trying to book a camping trip or a trip, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and they look for a phone number and they call the number and it says, please call us back between 8 and 4, they're going to move on to the next one. They may not even try to call you. They may just move on to the next one, somebody who offers an online reservation service. So that's how real time the world is getting, and we just, as marketers, we have to respond. Accessibility of the content and consistency from one channel to the other channel, one device to the other device. How many people, how many times you have, and I have, been using our laptop at work, moved on, walking to lunch, use our mobile phone to continue on the research or reading something about a disease state or something, and then shift over to another device. But we don't want to lose our place in that research and in that scenario. So I think once you combine these three very big things, we find that the information that's available, you have to be at the right time, at the right place, with the right device for the customer. So you just have to kind of stay ahead a couple steps. Data, and the main thing here is the data that you collect will tell you what is happening and will we will be able to, as marketers, be able to respond to that very quickly. When we are talking about all of these relevant, timely, and interactions with our customers, each of these things are taking place in a point in time. And that's where the companies who are really putting these interactions in a series and making that into an understanding the customer journey, because all of these interactions make up a journey. If they understand it and they react to it or even plan for it, then those companies are much ahead in this process of delivering the right customer experience to their customers and the companies that are treating these interactions as separate.
That's interesting. How many times have you actually seen a company have like seamless interactions across these various touch points? Because I feel like it's a pretty disconnected experience right now. Like you had mentioned one thing about the device. So I was just the other day filling out a form on my laptop while I was at work, and then I left work and I attempted to open the form back up on my mobile phone, but I had to start all over again.
Yeah,
it was pretty annoying. I mean, do you see that most companies are driving towards this seamless experience? Like, or could you find examples?
Yeah. So I mean, I hate to give an example of a
How about one that's doing it well?
Think about Amazon, right? So what Amazon is doing is from the time you get on the website to search for something to the time you receive the product that you ordered from them, and every touch point in between, you know exactly where you are, you know exactly when the product is coming, and you know exactly where it was left, when it was left, even if it was by U.S. Postal Service or if it was by UPS. So there is no blind spots in an Amazon transaction that starts from web and ends it at your door. And that's the type of thing that if you start to combine those interactions and look at companies that don't do that, that won't send you a shipping notice 48 hours after you submit it. There's a silence in between. The delivery is promised between 4 and 6 days, and you really don't know when it's going to show up. You can't plan your life around. Those are the types of interactions that are disjointed, where one party, a call center, if you call the call center is going to say that you placed it online, I may be able to help you, I may not be able to help you. You go to the store is going to say, well, that's the price that you saw online. I work in a store, our merchant sets up different pricing. So those are the disconnects, and the connects are where everything is seamless. You go to a store or you go to online, the e-commerce and the store, they work.
I mean, ultimately, it shouldn't matter whether they're buying it online or in the store, or whether they buy it online and pick it up in the store. It should be a seamless experience. I've had some interactions with a retail outlet where I received a coupon in my inbox, and essentially I had to order online and pick up in the store in order to get the coupon, but I was actually at the store and I had my phone. I'm like, can I just have this coupon now since I'm here? And the answer was no. And that's a frustrating experience. It makes me not want to frequent that store anymore.
Yeah, and those things, obviously, when we talk about the front end, and we are always forgetting about the back end, right, Rick? So in the example that you just provided, what's happening is front end is trying to keep up with the customer and the customer demand, but behind the scenes, there's a separate group online. There's a separate group offline supporting the stores. There's a finance group. There's a pricing group. There's a marketing group. Within marketing group, there's an email group, and there's a direct mail group. Until those people start to work together and start to look at things holistically, that until then we're going to have similar type of scenarios.
So is that like the multi-channel experience then, just the different groups? Like the call center group versus the order group versus the delivery group, or what do you mean by MCM then? How that supports this experience?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. So I think more and more integration between those groups. Um, how, we want to be able to say it. We want to say that there's that integration that exists and it's seamless. But still, as long as an email manager and an email director is hired and given different goals than a catalog director who manages catalog, until they have separate goals, these frictions and these things are going to continue to happen. So yes, we want to say that multi-channel, more you get on multi-channel and omni-channel solution and kind of progress towards that perfection. Until then, yes, you are going to have these disconnects and will continue to have them. So that's the customer on the receiving end, they don't care if you have 4 departments handling this or one seamless department handling this. But what they are looking for is an experience, and it's as an organization, you have to be able to deliver. But as a marketer, I think there are things in there that you definitely are able to manage. We'll just get to it in just a second. So these interactions that we're talking about, once you move from these interactions that are connected, what we call it from an end-to-end, from one left side to the right side, interaction 1 to interaction 4, 5, 6, 10, is a journey. Customer journey is really not linear. It's not simple, and it goes in circle many times. And today's digital world really supports this because last year I was buying a camera, and I could have bought the camera within a day or two. Just went to go to Best Buy and pick it up, a Canon. But what ended up happening that I started to research, and I then compared pricing. Then I compared pricing some more, read some reviews. Then I went back into research mode again, and I started to redo it, started to look at different lenses. It took me 2 months before I was able to make a purchase and pull the trigger. So pulling the trigger to buy that camera took me literally about 60 days, and drove my wife crazy because every time she saw me on the computer, I was doing research, and she said, what is it that is stopping you from buying this? I said, there's a lot of information I have to go through. So that's the type of thing. But it was the camera that I picked up or kind of focused on within a couple days of my research. But it took me 60.
I'd almost want to tell the camera companies all the ways I went and researched their product in order to make a buying decision and see if there was some way that we can incorporate better decisioning metrics or better customer experience going to those points to help drive me to this decision. Because I'm looking at your journey here, and it is not a straight line. It's pretty much I'm going here, I'm going over here, and maybe I'll come back to here, and then I'm going to go down here and check prices, and then I'm going to go back to read more reviews. How do you streamline that path, that journey? Like, how do we do that?
Well, there are a few ways to do it, but as marketers, what you need to understand is, first of all, you have to understand that is the case, right? That once you have the reality in front of us, that it's not a straight line that we just say, oh, the customer's going to enter here, they're going to do some research, they're going to look at our pricing, obviously, they're going to consider us, obviously, they're going to choose us, obviously, and that they're going to use our product, obviously, and then they're going to tell their friends, and then their friends are going to do the same line, and they're going to do this. Until we get out of that mindset, that's what we are talking about, is that it's not clear. And what we need to do is understand the data that is underlying all of these interactions and behind all of these clicks and actions. That how many times did Jay come to my website day after day after day after day, searching the same thing over and over and over again? How can I move him along until we figure that piece out, the decision is going to take as long as it took me, right? So that's obviously the million-dollar question. So what is it? What are the components of a customer journey? And I think that everybody has probably seen a million of these in the last, even I would say, like last couple months. You have probably seen dozens of these. Understanding the customer, their customer behavior, and behavior stages. Where are they in their process? Knowing your customer's goal, not your mind goal, not your company goal, but what is it that the customer is trying to get to? Either it's information or if it's something else, price. Customer touch points. This is where the marketers come in very heavy. This is your territory. What are the customer touch points? Understanding them, working with the analytics teams to figure out what those touch points are. What's their favorite journey? What's the best path to get to from consideration to a decision? And then also collecting the data to facilitate and repeat. So that's the key, is the data that facilitates the decision has to be validated, and that's how you can change the customer profile. Then you know exactly what's happening, what information they're looking for. More of those personas that when they show up, you know what information, and continue to personalize. So it's the process is the same, but the personalization that's different from case to case. Looking at a healthcare example, and it's similar in healthcare, it's similar in financial services, it's similar in retail. So the way that the customers and the patients are thinking is quite similar. That you don't know, you are trying to seek some information about a product for a disease state, and then on the right-hand side, the end is that you continue to use the product, you love the product, you tell other people about the product. So that's that, and everything in between, right? So these are the decisions that are being made. Where we impact as marketers heavily is where the tactics are. So figuring out what tactics fit in what stage, the behavior stage. And these are when to do TV, when to do digital, when to do display, paid search, and so on and so forth. So these are the decisions that are being made, and within each interaction, as it happens, a display ad is delivered, or an email is delivered, or TV ad is delivered. Those are the types of transactions you start to take action on, and that's when it starts to build a journey, and that journey ends up into delivering a great customer experience. These are all of the interactions, and many more. This is just a small sample of when a patient is thinking about something. This is how many things they have to think about. They're going from social to family to marketing material to a website to a doctor's office to a pharmacy to going to WebMD and other. There are so many interactions that for us to simplify it doesn't do justice. If we just simplify it and say it's a straight line, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're going to do this. It's not, doesn't justify it. And what ends up happening is the patient or the caregiver or the customer ends up receiving less information or wrong information at the wrong place at the wrong time, and then it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen for us. Somebody else picks that customer up, and they treat them well. They deliver the right experience, right information at the relevant time to the right devices, and they get the customer. And that's what we call it, just not being at the right place at the right time. And unfortunately, that happens a lot, and sometimes we don't even realize that it is happening. So this is an example of a doctor, an HCP, for example, a healthcare provider. Starting from the top left, our goal is to get them to the bottom right, the green. And with these are all of the stages that on the left-hand side, these are the stages that they are at: unaware, aware, sampler engaged. And the goal is for each of those stages to have an end. And within that journey, they continue to move from one to the other. And there are certain tactics that these are examples, so you can see that in unaware HCPs, you're talking to them quite often from a field sales standpoint. But if you look at the bottom, engaged HCP, you're not talking to them that much because from their behavior, the way that they're behaving, they're interacting with your material that you have sent them over the years or over the months. They are engaging with your website. They're engaging with. They're speaking on your behalf. You don't have to send a salesperson and put it on their highest priority anymore. So these are the type of things that you can do, not just on the pharma side or the healthcare side, but also in other industries that you can use the journey information where the consumer is in that journey and start to target them with different marketing tactics and different channels where you can move the dollars around so you're not putting everybody in the same basket over and over again. How does multi-channel fit in here, right? So we're talking about all these tactics. The main thing that from a multi-channel standpoint is we are supposed to put the customer in the middle. Once you put the customer in the center, you will notice that on the left-hand side, every intake, and from the right-hand side, every outbound communication, they start to function keeping that customer in the middle, keeping that customer in mind, knowing what that customer is looking for, how they want to get that information, their preferences, their behavior, their personas. All of the information, either in offline or online world, start to make more sense. You can use analytics and data to drive those decisions. So what can we do as marketers? First of all is personas and profile, understanding the customer and creating some personas to understand who are the major buyers, who are the major deciders, who are the major advocates, and start to build those personas around those. And you have this data available. Most of us have this data available. We can probably buy some of this data in addition, but first-party data is readily available to you. Anybody who's creating transactions have this data in e-commerce and brick-and-mortar world as well. Personalized content. You can create a process that's standard. You can create these personas, but the experience has to be personalized. When a consumer comes in, you have to be, and this is where all of our digital interactions and other things come into play. Loyalty cards play a role in here, recognizing the customer when they log in, and be able to, from a DMP standpoint, just kind of understanding who their audience is and recognizing them and delivering the right message through the content management systems. Those are the things that make those interactions and make those content delivery into a personal, very personal delivery. And that's what is important. And the last thing is delivering against the relevancy and the timeliness. What can you do, start to do very quickly? I would suggest on number 2 that we have, everybody should have a database. If you work for a company that does not, is generating customer transaction that does not have a database, you have to be able to look and access that data. In hosted solutions 30 years ago, that was the problem, but today, that's not a problem, that's not an excuse anymore. We should all have a marketing automation platform that we can use to communicate with our customers, understand our customers, and deliver the right messages to them and honor their preferences. get yourself close to technology. You have, if your company's core competency is not technology, it's not CRM, it's not, you make women's clothing, or you are in a pharma business that you have solutions for certain disease states, you don't have time to get yourself an expert, become an expert in CRM. You hire a partner who can help you do those type of things, help you with automation, help you with data management, help you with digital journeys. And understanding one thing that when you go back, journeys are not linear. I think we kind of beat that one quite a bit. Then you have enough data. So don't think that you don't have data. Sometimes it's difficult to get your hands on data, but you have the data, and we need to be able to kind of start using that data to learn.
Excellent.
That's all I got.
No, that's wonderful, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day today, Jay, to join us and talk about a customer experience. We are technically out of time, so I'm not going to get into the About Encima section of our presentation, but I do have two questions in front of me, Jay. I thought it important to ask you from our audience, so I'm just going to jump right into those. As a marketer, how can I directly influence the customer experience? What are my options?
Well, I think the slide that we are on answers some of that. So the couple things that I will highlight one more time are, as a marketer, you have access to, or you should have access to, data. Right? So data-driven decision making is one thing that can be leveraged. And every marketer, before you spend a single dollar, you should kind of know how you're going to measure that dollar and where you're going to put that dollar. And in delivering the customer experience, some things that you really want to know are, what is it that the customer is looking for? Do you have the platforms and the infrastructure in place to deliver against those needs that the customer is looking for? Timeliness comes to mind, right? Mm-hmm. That in a real-time world, if you're doing batch, if you're doing confirmations to web registrations 48 hours after they register, or you don't do it at all, those are the type of things that you can control. Content, every marketer should be able to control, if not control, at least influence. Then obviously just making sure that the research that takes place is not just external, it's also internal. A couple clients that we work with found that the locations that are performing the best, that has the highest customer ratings that the customers are giving to those locations, are also getting high scores among employees. So as long as the employees, so there's a direct connection there. So
happy employees make happy customers, or vice versa?
Happy employees make happy customers. Absolutely, because the experience that the customers get is going to be tremendously different when your employees are happy. And sometimes it's the size of the store and the size of the location matters. The bigger the location, you really don't have enough staff to cover it, so you have people looking in aisle number 1 and there's nobody to be found, so there's nobody to help. So you just have to kind of understand your business a little bit, look at the data, but use the research that you do, both internally, externally, and online, and try to combine those and get a good view of what's going on, not just silos of information.
No, that's great, Jay. That's excellent. That actually kind of ties into the second question here. But the question is, how can they use digital technology to improve the customer experience? What tools are available that you use?
Well, on that one, Rick, I will let you answer that if you could. being the digital guru that you are, I'll let you answer that.
Sure. As I blush. No, so I guess from my standpoint, there are digital marketing stacks, and stacks are essentially compilations of different software solutions that you can use to improve customer experience or track customer experience or personalize the customer experience. But I guess from my opinion, you have a CMS, a content management system, which is essentially like a WordPress or a Hadoop. It's a way for you to build your site in a modular fashion so that you can kind of show certain content to certain people based on certain triggers you set up. I guess another part of that stack in my mind would be like a marketing automation or a CRM tool. So just a way to send out communications to your customers, and hopefully you're tying that information together with your CMS platform so that you can have automated triggers so that you can send out a specific email for a specific engagement on site. And then I guess lastly would be like a multivariate tester sort of stuff, like A/B testing. Does page A or page B perform better when people come here from a display campaign? And some sort of way to optimize on that. But in my mind, I guess it's all about the continual striving to personalize your website experience for each individual visitor and figuring out the necessary business rules to kind of make sure they have a cohesive, seamless experience that is personalized to their needs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's great. Because for those of us who have been in this business for longer than digital has been, we have seen that kind of conspire come a long way from one end to the other end. And what you just described are very similar to are the offline solutions and offline tools that used to be available and that are still available. But I think one major difference is that the time that it used to be necessary to do a testing of this kind, or do an update of this kind, or do a customer profile or audience management through DMP of this kind, it's so much faster. It's real time, and our customers are demanding it. And as providers and as we have to kind of react to it, and we have to be able to. That's just a baseline of doing business. We have to be in real time, making real time decisions, and using the data to our advantage. And I think that's the name of the game.
Excellent. Well, Jay, I want to thank you once again for a great discussion. Appreciate you taking the time. And for our audience, I just want to let everybody know that we will post a replay of this webinar on our website in the upcoming week, probably early next week some point. Website URL is ensemagroup.com. You can also find all of our other webinars under the Thought Leadership section of site, so feel free to poke around. And as always, email me any questions or comments you have about today's webinar or options for future topics. We're always looking for ways to improve based on your feedback. I appreciate all of your insights today and how we can help improve these clinics moving forward. And please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.